Welcome everyone to this year's first panel debate. I'm going to be your panel moderator today. And today we're going to discuss and talk about the importance of people analytics in a post-coronavirus world. Welcome to a little cozy home here in Copenhagen. My name is Stefan and I'm basically going to be facilitating the dialogue today, asking our clever people some cool questions based on your demands, but also what we have decided to come up with. Besides being I'm a product owner in Danske Bank, where we take advantage of people analytics to boost performance. And besides that, I'm probably a little bit of a nerd when it comes to and working with habits. But today it's actually not about me. It's about some of the cool and clever people that we have in the panel. So first of all, I'm gonna welcome you, Lei. So can you put a few words to who you are?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Lei Pan. I'm HR Analytics Manager at Shell. So my role in the organization is leading the data science team in HR, basically. I call it a data science team with human touch. So we actually use advanced data science to understand people's behavior. And currently, I'm also overseeing HR reporting and behavior, organizational behavior. So other two teams. So very excited to be here.
Thank you so much. And then we have Bendik as well. Can you put a few words to what you are doing?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. So my name is Bendik Brunvoll. I'm a solution consultant at SAP SuccessFactors. So SAP SuccessFactors is part of the SAP ecosystem, naturally, but it's certainly more about the HR side, the human experience side, and having that one platform for all of your HR operations. But as well, it's moving towards that experience side, and to Lei's point with the behavior part, is also very important. But previously, I have worked with recruitment, and I also have studied organizational psychology from before. So that's my background before I ended up at SAP.
And I think one of the cool things about people analytics is when you can combine the data with the psychology, actually. So let's start with getting to know what you're actually doing on a day-to-day basis. So Bendik, how are you working with people analytics today, and how has the work changed since the pandemic?
Yeah, so my primary role is to be out with organizations and companies and having a look at their end-to-end HR processes and see how we can leverage technology to help them improve, right? And a lot of that part is it's all about getting that insights, right? You're creating great experiences, but it's something about having that foundation in order to leverage the data that you get out of a kind of an HR platform, and how we can combine that with, for example, your financials on a day-to-day basis. It's also digging deep into kind of experience data. Quite recently, I have kind of really gone back to the roots where I came from, organizational psychology, and looking into how do people think and feel, and kind of see how can we kind of give the best possible experience for our customers when it comes to understanding the feelings and emotions of the employees. So I'm more on the consulting side, helping customers to realize kind of where should we go with our people analytics in that case.
And how has the work changed since the pandemic?
So if it's to my work specifically, it is, just look at where we are, right? It's virtual, it's home office. But if you look more general on what we see with the whole workforce in itself, I'm living with a nurse and her life has changed quite dramatically. So it's not only us who are going to home office. We are actually on a lucky side, right? So it's been a change for a lot of people. But I think if we're looking at the areas that we are in, it's about like having access to the tools and means that you need in order to actually be able to perform at your work, right? So since we're all separate virtually, I think it's something about trying to create connectedness, even though we are separate, and there we need technology and the tools and the means to do so. And it's important that organizations support that, because that's a shift we're going, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much. And Lei, how does a regular day? How do you work with people analytics?
So my main task is leading basically the people analytics team. So our portfolio is big. So we are now a very big team. Actually, advanced analytics is only 6 people at the moment, but we actually really work with all parts of HR. So we focus on strategic directions. So we're not really supporting operational or supporting. So we're basically really providing insights for HR processes that affect Shell globally. So we work closely with organizational development talent. So for example, with talent, we look at does Shell promote the right people? Does Shell recruit the right people? Does Shell lose talent? Right. So look at the whole talent pipeline. With organizational development, so we look at how does the process look like? Is that efficient? We look at the structure. Is the structure simple, effective? We look at leadership, right? What's the profile of our leaders? Does that support the future Shell strategy? So our portfolio, we work another maybe more important topic. So we work directly with business on people-related questions, right? So what are the key factors that really drive performance, drive safety? So business can focus on like more important factors when they put in interventions. So it's a really very, very big portfolio. And then when at the start of the pandemic, we saw quite a big change in terms of the portfolio. I think so. We used to be a very, very strategic team. We only serve like really decisions that can affect Shell for 5-10 years, right? So at the start of the pandemic, and we start to see that things became operational, right? And at that time, it's about can we save enough cash for Shell to be resilient? Where do we see opportunities there? So things became very very operational for a while, or even for the large part of last year. But now, since we're now 1 year really into the pandemic, we see that we turned again. So basically, I think it probably applied to many companies, right? And many companies are looking at their strategy and basically making adjustments and rethink about their strategy, right? So we really see that we turned again. We look at really the new strategy, where can we put what kind of people do we need, right? For example, when we now put reskilling, upscaling again on the really high on the agenda, right? So really to see whether we have the right people to deliver the strategy. We look at flexible working. And that's also basically not just return to site. That's very that's short run, but also look at flexible working for the future, right? So we basically becomes very strategic direction again.
And let me stop you right there, because if we take the last, let's say, 12 months into consideration, right? How has the importance of people analytics increased? What's your take on that, Bendik?
So what I think is that it's always been important, right? It's the need has always been there, and But I think that companies has realized how much they actually need it, and how they kind of have lacked. I think they finally have realized the possibilities with people analytics, because suddenly, all of a sudden, by just one day, suddenly all of the employees were spread out, right? They weren't located anywhere. You didn't have that gut feeling anymore, because companies still do that today, right? They use their gut feeling and have some intentions of, yeah, maybe I think we're doing good. Oh, I think we need to improve. But suddenly you don't have that feeling, and you kind of need that type of overview. So I think it first and foremost has kind of created that urge to actually maybe have a pulse on your employees, like how has it been to be at a home office? Do you have everything you need? How can we support you better? So I think it's leverage. What I think is that we need to leverage it in the sense to kind of get the insights on the feelings and emotions of the employees. But at the same time, to what Lei here is saying about reskilling and upskilling, because we now also realize that, okay, we have a lot of employees that can't maybe do their work, right? So they are physically on locations, and now all of a sudden they are either not working because they can't be on the physical location, or they and maybe need to relocate. And that's where I think upskilling and reskilling is being even more important, and leverage people analytics data to actually understand, kind of create that internal mobility in your organization. What competences, skills, capabilities do we have today, and where should we go? And even now that maybe we had this pandemic, I guess that we also want to try to kind of have almost like a crisis evaluation as well, right? You want to predict if there hits a crisis, how do we adjust accordingly? So I think it's definitely has created some urge to act, definitely. But I first and foremost think that people have realized about the feelings and emotions, the skills and the competences, what do we have and where should we go? That's kind of where I think people analytics will come useful also for the future.
And what about you, Lei? Have you experienced any new trends among your employees, or anything that you've noticed during the past 12 months?
If we look at from our side, so people analytics side, and then I see I wouldn't use a word like the importance increased. It's we have always been important, right? And we see more and more people came to us look for insights, right? So and then that's just I think it's because of the pandemic, there are many decisions need to be made, right? So either about the organization structure, either about the strategy, about upscaling, rescaling, about return to site, so about the future of work. So also or more also about sensing, right? Like how our employees feeling, right? Are they okay? So all these decisions need to be made, and I think the senior leaders want to have a good sense of how the organization is going. So we receive many interests and many requests to really get insights. So that's why I think I would say that where people really people have already recognized that our importance is there, but people basically there are more use cases really that we can add value into it. That's what I feel. And then on the employee side, I think it's I actually feel people are actually more connected. We all work from home, but then because we lose that corridor chat anymore, we don't have that anymore. So we actually intentionally try to connect to each other and so that's what we really see from our surveys during the COVID period. I think Microsoft also produced some insights from their workplace analytics. Also shows that people start to really make time to connect to each other. That's also what we see there.
And I think you said something really, really interesting, right? You said something about, the sense of belonging, and I can just share some examples from Danske Bank as well. What we have experienced is also that the sense of belonging within the teams, they have actually increased during the last 12 months. And that's even though people are sitting remotely and from home and, put on the camera when they talk to each other and cannot meet each other at the coffee machines. But for some reason, it still has increased, and there can be many reasons for that. But it's quite interesting, I would say. Another thing that we have also noticed is actually that we are working a lot with what we call psychological safety, so trust and emotional openness within the team, and that has actually also increased despite not being able to see each other physically. Do you have any ideas about why that is, or how that might be?
The start of the so I have a team that's mostly in The Hague, and there are a couple in other countries. And then the start of the pandemic, actually, when I asked how everybody is, and then people who are not in The Hague actually said, well, we're much more connected now. We're not in headquarters, but we feel a lot more connected. So I think it's the intention, right? It's the people really put more effort in connecting to people, and also I think our leaders, our team leads, are really putting more effort in really connect with people. So the as you said, the psychological safety and has always been important, but at this time, psychological safety, trust, and also the same in Shell, that way. I really feel that it's getting really people really putting effort in that, right? I feel that's probably why that's we feel especially for people who are not in headquarters, they really feel that they're more connected and they hear more about, and also there are many webcasts from our really senior leaders, right, at the board level. So even I feel that yes, I have hear more about the strategy, have a better feeling about the direction than the time I was sitting in the headquarters every day.
And I'm also thinking perhaps it's because that the working identity and the private identity becomes more or less fluent, right? We have meetings with dogs on our laps, and we can see children running around in the background. As also told you before we joined, Lei, you have some suitcases in the background. It's quite cozy, right? So it makes you more human, maybe.
Just need to make sure that there's no laundry hanging there.
Yeah, Pieter, welcome. I'm glad that.
I'm glad that you're having fun. It seems like a nice conversation you're in. So.
We're having a great conversation here. So please take a few seconds to introduce yourself, and then I will throw you straight under the bus with a difficult question afterwards.
Yeah, thank you very much. And first of all, apologies for the bad connection. I think this is also the challenges with the working from home. Shortly about myself, I'm Pieter Weijnen. I work as a people analytics data scientist at Rabobank, and it's a Dutch leading bank, one of the three main banks in the Netherlands. And I've been working there for 3 years now. So that's really shortly about myself, and let's not take too long introducing myself, and let's just get straight into the conversation I propose.
Peter, can you share examples of how your company is handling this, I would not call it post-coronavirus, but actually call it during coronavirus. How do you actually handle that, seen from a people analytics perspective?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the main things that we're doing, and I think probably you already discussed it, probably is a survey that we send out periodically. We send out one every 3 weeks to our not to entire employee population, but to 5% of our employee population, to see how they are doing. And really frequently check what are the themes that are emerging and what are the things that are really important to them, so that we can immediately try to facilitate those kind of things. So for instance, the working from home facilities that we implemented in the beginning of the pandemic is something that really showed up in these surveys that we're doing. So it really enables us to act on the things that are important to our employees.
Can you come with some concrete examples of how you take advantage of the results from the 3 weeks surveys?
Yeah, so the first one that I mentioned is the working from home facilities. That of course a lot of people, we saw that I think in the beginning 50% of the people were replying that this was something that they really needed to work effectively from home. And another thing that really struck us, or really defied our initial intuition, was that we saw that a lot of young people were actually doing less well than their older or relatively older colleagues. And this was also something that I think especially some other colleagues within HR did not really expect. They thought, well, maybe the people who have children at home, who have more responsibilities at home, have more trouble with the working from home. But what we actually saw is that the younger people, the younger group, really had trouble with that. And so when we're doing pilots with going back to the office or trying new things, new interventions, we really targeted on that group of young people, because we know that they are in the biggest need of that. So yeah.
And Bendik, can you share some example of how you are engaging or having focus on, we can call it mental well-being, using the people analytics?
Yeah, exactly. So I think what we had touched upon there is the kind of the paradox with work-life balance, right? I think all of us can sign under that we probably have worked more hours now than previously, right? And I think it's really interesting what Pieter says about that it's the younger generation or younger people who are actually kind of less satisfied and having the hardest time. Because I just see my own parents, right? They are just going to the cabin, enjoying their lives, working a bit, like you go out with a boat, kayaking, all that type of stuff. While me here in Oslo, it's still locked down, can't meet people, and it's basically work, right? So that's so I think that's something we're actually I'm actually breaking a barrier here at SAP, because we are actually having this today, like a work health day. So I'm actually supposed to be off, but I'm prioritizing you guys. But we have done this type of initiatives, and that comes from that people actually want to have more time to kind of disconnect themselves as well from the work, because it is difficult. And what I know, if we take the people analytics side, we do similar stuff as what Pieter said. We have also taken this type of pulses and get some really good insights on the different demographics and how they are feeling when it comes to work. And work-life balance has been one of those issues that has been highlighted. So that's just a practical example, I would say, which I'm breaking.
Yeah, and talking about work-life balance, right? So how do we actually determine what the right balance is between working from home and working from the office, work-life balance, etc.? Lei, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, it's actually a hard question. What is the right balance? Currently, I don't have an answer at the moment, but maybe I can give a few things we're doing maybe towards that direction. I think eventually that really needs a bit more study to see the effect of it, right? So I think now we can only see what people are doing. Like what Pieter said, of course, we're doing the sensing survey to see what people feel, right? Do they feel that in terms of work-life balance, is it right? Is it what has been changing? And it's any, of course, asking for any open comments about it. And then so there are also another survey we're currently doing supporting the future of work. It's a very big project looking at the future of flexible working, what kind of facilities should be there, what kind of policies should be there. So there we're also basically trying to get a sense of what's people's preference, right? So I think if you look very objectively, you can see me, I can work from home with no issue, but do I actually like to work from home? Does that affect my work-life balance? So that's I think that's important to understand people's preference. And then in all the employee webcasts, and we also use text mining to basically understand what are the questions people are asking. So how many questions are about are related to work-life balance? Are they what's the sentiment? Are they positive and negative. So get a bit of sense of that as well. So I must say that currently most of the work we do still is trying to understand what is going on, what's in people's mind. I think well, if we want to understand what's the right balance, we probably need a little bit more study to see linking behavior to for example engagement, and to see where the right balance is. And that's very culture specific, country specific, that we already realized that in our studies. Yeah.
And we have about 5 minutes left, and I'm eager to get some key takeaways from you guys. So I'll let every one of you have a word here. So how can people analytics be used to be that we can, how can we going forward if we look post coronavirus? Any takes on that? Any reflections or key takeaways? Peter, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of added value to be gained. I think looking forward, the main added value for HR and for people analytics will be in really understanding our employees and really listening to them. The way that we're working is already changing. So the companies that will be really able to listen to those needs and to cater to those needs will be the companies, I think, that will be attracting the best talent. Will be differentiating them in the market, and the companies that don't listen, that are trying to get back to the old situation, will be, I think, losing talent and will be losing the competition game. So from HR, we have a lot to add on the employee part, and really understanding their needs when the new way of working is really materializing itself in the coming months and years.
Thank you, Peter. Any or key takeaways that you want to share with me and the rest of the delegates?
Yeah, so I think when in one of the webcasts, one of the senior leaders did during the pandemic, and somebody said one sentence, and I would use that one to basically help me to go through the pandemic. And she said you have to distinguish being impacted by the pandemic and just being there's inconvenience for you. So that during the whole pandemic, I tell myself it's just inconvenience for me, and I'm not really impacted, right? So I think that's also what I'm telling my team and my colleagues, that we need to go through this with a positive attitude. So one takeaway is to look ahead, right? So don't be stuck with your current situation, the current inconvenience. Look ahead, what's needed, what are the big topics that the organization needs in 3 years time, 5 years time. So don't be stuck with the current pandemic situation. Are changing, strategy are changing, so really look ahead. Second is I think integration with business. We have always been trying to work more and be more proactive working with business. I think that shows more during the pandemic and after the pandemic, really on people related question. Full integration with the business, really try to answer questions that are really important for the business, because the business strategy is also changing.
Thank you so much, Lei. And the final remark for you, Bendik.
Pleasure to finish it off. But I love what Lei says there about getting our mindset for the future. Like this is the present, and we're gonna continue doing what we are doing and improve on that. But when it comes to people analytics specifically, I think we can take away that it's not only about the listening part, but we really want to act on it, right? It doesn't matter if we listen, if we don't act, right? So we need to kind of easily get some vision into where should we act and where will that have, for example, impact on overall engagement, if that's our goal. So I think action is critical if we're talking people analytics, or less it's useless, right? Then it's just nice visuals.
Absolutely agree, because sometimes we just sit in our own tower and implementing a lot of cool stuff and not really taking action on it. So that was a nice key takeaway. Thank you so much for joining the panel, the three of you, and thank you delegates for listening in. We have a new super cool panel debate tomorrow, where we're going to talk a little bit about how we can evolve capabilities, etc., using people analytics. thank you so much for showing up, and have a nice conference.